You know, I love to explore different cultures and traditions, and today we're going to be looking at Mahashivaratri in Nepal.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And I actually came across this podcast episode that dives deep into like the whole experience, and it's pretty incredible.
I bet there's so much to unpack with Mahashivaratri. It's not just a festival, it's like this whole spiritual journey.
Right. And it all revolves around Shiva. I mean, everyone kind of knows Shiva, right? Blue skin, the moon in his hair, snakes around his neck. But what's the real deal with this deity?
Well, you got to think of Shiva as like this force of duality. He's the destroyer, but not in like a scary way, more like the force that clears the way for new beginnings, you know?
Makes sense. So it's like destruction is a form of creation.
Exactly. And he's also the transformer, like guiding us through change, helping us evolve. And what's really interesting is that this connects to his role as like the first yogi adiyogi, emphasizing this whole idea of letting go of material stuff for spiritual growth.
Oh, wow. I see how that all ties together. So like even those visual elements, we see the blue throat, the Ganga flowing from his hair, the snakes, they all mean something.
Oh, absolutely. Like take the blue throat, for example. It comes from the legend where Shiva drank poison to save the universe, turning his throat blue. It's a symbol of his self-sacrifice.
Oh, wow. That's intense. And the other stuff?
Well, the crescent moon, it's like his mastery over time and cycles, right? And the Ganga represents purification, and the snakes, they symbolize Kundalini energy, that powerful force within all of us.
It was like a whole visual language telling a story. It's fascinating. And what about that mantra, Om Namah Shivaya? I hear it a lot when people talk about Shiva.
Yeah, Om Namah Shivaya. It's like one of the most powerful mantras in Hinduism. You know, chanting it is believed to invoke Shiva's energy and draw you closer to him. It's not just the words, it's the vibration, the intention behind them.
It's like a direct line to the divine.
In a way, yeah. Devotees believe that chanting this mantra can help you achieve moksha liberation from the cycle of birth and death.
That's deep. So we've got cosmic energy, ancient symbolism, profound mantras. Now, the podcast episode I was listening to, it mentioned three main legends behind Mahashivaratri, each one shedding light on different aspects of Shiva's nature. What's the story there?
Well, each legend offers a unique perspective, right? There's the story of Shiva performing the Tandava, which is like this cosmic dance of creation, preservation, and destruction.
The cosmic dance, I've heard of that. It sounds pretty intense.
It's not just any dance, though. It's like a visual representation of the universe constantly in motion. Creation bursting forth, the balance of preservation, and then the inevitable dissolution of everything. It's really profound when you think about it.
Whoa, so it's like he's orchestrating the rhythm of the universe through dance. That's amazing. Yeah. What about the other legends?
Well, another one celebrates Shiva and Parvati's marriage. It highlights the union of like masculine and feminine energies, emphasizing the importance of balance.
So it's about the interconnectedness of everything.
Exactly. And then there's the story of Shiva consuming poison during this like cosmic churning to save the universe. Talk about self-sacrifice. This one speaks to his compassion and his role as protector.
Wow. Okay. I'm sensing some major themes here. Cosmic cycles, divine unions, self-sacrifice. This is definitely not your average celebration. Makes you wonder what the actual atmosphere is like during Mahashivaratri.
Well, the episode describes Pashupatinath Temple in Kathmandu as like the epicenter of it all. Huge crowds, electric atmosphere, you know?
Yeah, I can only imagine. The episode described it as intense, almost otherworldly, and they mentioned these Naga sadhus, naked ascetics covered in ash. What's their role?
They're pretty striking. They really embody this concept of viragya, like complete detachment from material possessions and worldly desires. It's a pretty extreme form of asceticism, but their presence adds to the spiritual intensity of the festival.
So they're like living, breathing representations of Shiva's principles.
Yeah, you could say that. And it brings us to something I'm sure our listeners are curious about, too. You know, marijuana at a temple, it seems like a paradox, right?
Yeah, that was one thing that really stood out to me from the episode. Like, how does that fit into everything?
Well, it's a tradition that definitely raises eyebrows. But you got to understand the cultural and religious context here. See, Shiva is also known as Bola Baba, the innocent father who is believed to have used cannabis to enhance his meditation.
So it's not just recreational for devotees, there's a spiritual element.
Exactly. Consuming bhang, which is this cannabis-infused drink, it's seen as a sacred offering to Shiva and a way to achieve a heightened state of consciousness, to transcend the ego and connect with the divine on a deeper level.
So it's like a tool for spiritual exploration.
You could say that. It's important to note that this practice is rooted in Ayurvedic principles, which view cannabis as a powerful plant with medicinal and spiritual properties. It's not just about getting high, but about achieving a different kind of high, one that allows for spiritual exploration and deeper connection.
Right, so it's all about intention and context.
Of course, there's always going to be controversy surrounding this aspect, but it's a reminder that traditions often have these complex, layered meanings. Things aren't always black and white. It's a good example of how exploring a topic like Shivaratri can challenge our assumptions and broaden our perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just about learning facts. It's about understanding the whole tapestry of beliefs and practices that make up this festival.
You've hit the nail on the head, and honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to explore, like the symbolism of fire and light, the unique culinary traditions.
I'm already hooked. Let's keep this exploration going in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back. It's amazing how much is packed into a single night. We've been talking about Shiva, the legends, the Nagasadhus, but what's it actually like at Pashupatinath during Shivaratri? The podcast episode really brought it to life.
Oh, yeah. It described this crazy mix of chanting music, the energy of thousands of devotees. Makes you wonder how sound plays into the whole thing.
Music and chanting are woven into the fabric of Shivaratri. It's not just background noise. It's an integral part of the spiritual practice.
So there's a purpose behind it.
Definitely. You'll hear devotional songs, hymns, and of course the continuous chanting of Om Namah Shivaya creates this soundscape that's both meditative and energizing at the same time.
Wow, it's like the sound itself is transformed.
Exactly. The vibrations of those chants are believed to purify the mind, help devotees connect with Shiva's energy. And don't forget Shiva's connection to the Damaru, that small two-headed drum.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that.
It represents the rhythm of creation, the heartbeat of the universe.
Ah, so there's that link back to the Tandawa, the cosmic dance we were talking about earlier. It all connects.
It does. And it's not just the sounds either. The podcast mentioned bonfires being lit all over Nepal. What's the deal with fire during Shivaratri?
Yeah, they mentioned that they burn these huge bonfires all night long. Must be quite a sight.
More than just a spectacle, actually. Fire, or Agni, in Vedic tradition represents Shiva's transformative power.
Oh, interesting. So it's like a symbol of purification.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Burning away negativity obstacles and staying awake all night by those fires is like a devotional practice, showing dedication to Shiva.
It's like a physical representation of the spiritual journey.
Yeah. And it echoes that victory of light over darkness, a classic theme.
I see that.
Yeah.
So they must go through a lot of wood to keep those fires burning all night. What do they burn in those bonfires anyway?
Well, wood is the main fuel, obviously, often gathered by the community as part of the preparations.
So it's a communal effort.
Exactly. And that's part of it, too, the act of gathering the wood, building the bonfires. It's seen as a communal act of devotion.
So it's not just about the physical fire. It's about the fire of devotion within the people.
You got it. It's amazing how everything has a deeper meaning, isn't it?
It really is.
Wow.
Even something as simple as a bonfire can be this powerful symbol. And speaking of powerful, the podcast talked about these unique culinary treats, bhaang laddu and bhaang haluwa. I've got to admit, I'm pretty curious about those.
Yeah, they're definitely not your average snacks. Bhaang laddu are like these sweet balls infused with cannabis, often shared as prasad, a sacred offering.
Prasad, I've heard of that. Isn't that like a religious offering?
It is. And then there's bhaang haluwa, which is kind of like a rich pudding, also containing cannabis.
So it's back to that idea of spiritual consumption. These aren't just treats, they're part of the experience.
Exactly. They're believed to enhance the spiritual experience, promote meditation relaxation, allow for a deeper connection with the divine.
Wow, so they're using food as a way to connect with the divine. That's fascinating.
It's a really cool example of how ancient Ayurvedic practices connect food and consciousness.
It really adds a whole new layer to the idea of food for thought. And, something else that really struck me from the podcast, that story about the foreign traveler who totally thought Shivaratri was a music festival.
Yeah, I remember that one. It's funny, but also kind of amazing.
Right, like this person knew nothing about the religious side of things, but still had this profound experience.
It just shows how Shivaratri can touch anyone, regardless of background or beliefs, It's about being open to the energy of the night, surrendering to the experience.
It's a reminder that spirituality can show up in unexpected ways.
Totally. And sometimes we just need to open ourselves up to the possibility of something bigger than ourselves.
It makes you wonder what other hidden gems might be waiting to be discovered within this festival. And there's one more thing. You mentioned something about a personal dimension to Mahashivaratri that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, there's something really special about this festival that brings this whole cosmic celebration down to a personal level, something everyone can relate to.
Okay. Now you've got me really intrigued. What is it?
It's the idea that this night isn't just about celebrating Sharava, but celebrating our own capacity for transformation.
Our own capacity for transformation.
Right.
I think our listeners are going to want to hear more about that. Let's dive into that personal side of Mahashivaratri in the final part of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Mahashivaratri. We've covered so much already. Shiva's cosmic dance, the energy at Pashupatinath. But you were saying there's this personal side to the festival that we haven't really touched on yet. I'm really curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, Mahashivaratri isn't just about these big celebrations and ancient traditions. It's also like this incredible opportunity for introspection and personal transformation.
Introspection and personal transformation. I like that. But how do we actually experience that during Mahashivaratri?
Well, think about it. Remember how we talked about Shiva as the destroyer? On a personal level, that destruction represents letting go, shedding negative patterns, limiting beliefs, anything that's holding us back.
Ah, okay. So it's not about physical destruction, but about getting rid of those internal obstacles.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like a spiritual spring cleaning. Mahashivaratri gives us this dedicated time to really reflect, to identify those things we need to let go of to make space for something new.
So it's about embracing change, becoming a better version of ourselves.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our own destinies, to choose growth and transformation. You know?
Yeah. We're not just watching this cosmic dance. We're a part of it.
Right. And remember that question from the podcast episode, what attachments are you ready to surrender?
Oh, yeah. That really stuck with me.
It's a question we can all ask ourselves, regardless of our beliefs. It's about taking that inward journey and having the courage to let go.
And it doesn't have to be this huge dramatic thing, right? Sometimes it's those small everyday choices that make the biggest difference.
Absolutely. It's those little acts of surrender, those moments where we choose growth over stagnation. That's where real change happens.
I love that. And what's cool is that we don't need a bonfire or a special festival to do this. We can create our own rituals, our own ways of letting go.
Exactly. And that's a great takeaway from all of this. Mahashivaratri might be a Hindu festival, but its message is universal.
It is. It's about transformation, self-discovery. That's something we can all connect with.
And sometimes all it takes is a little inspiration, a little nudge to remind us of that power within.
Well, I think this deep dive has definitely been full of inspiration and nudges. We've explored so much, the myths, the rituals, the energy, and it all comes back to that personal journey. Letting go, embracing change, finding that divine spark within ourselves.
Beautifully said. And as we wrap up, I'd encourage everyone listening to really think about that question of surrender. What are you ready to let go of? What transformation are you calling in?
Great questions to ponder. A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this amazing deep dive. It's been an incredible journey. And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Until next time, stay curious.